launch behaviour, I've forward launched it and I've reverse launched it. There's a slight tendency for the two halves of the wing to overfly the centre. But this is solved by laying out the wing carefully in more of a V shape so that the middle of the wing flies first. And if there's any wind at all, this helps hugely. So very forgiving launch behaviour, very benign, doesn't take too much management. And then once it's above your head, it kind of sits there happily and waits for you to tell it what to do. Thermaling. The glider has quite a high arc. It's not a flat glider, it's more of a sort of semicircle shape in terms of its arc. And this seems to give it a very flat, efficient turn with just a small amount of brake input. So it can turn sharply and flat at the same time, which is quite a neat trick. You can make it do a wing over type turn with a higher angle, but you really have to tell the glider this is what you're trying to do with a larger input. And a smaller input just gives you a nice flat thermaling turn. Mostly I fly the Buzz 7, which is the next glider down from this in the Ozone range. And the Buzz 7 has a tendency, with a very strong thermal, to be sort of slightly tipped out of the lift. And with the Vibe, there's more of a tendency to bite into the air mass, which makes it slightly more comfortable and efficient in lifting air than the Buzz, actually. The Buzz is more dampened, but if you're being tipped out of thermals all the time, it feels more comfortable, I think, to be able to carve into the thermal a bit, and you just end up having to manage the wing a little bit less. The downside of this, obviously, is if you were flying without a vario, it would be less obvious if you were entering weak lift with the Vibe. But I'm flying with a vario, and I think most people these days are flying with a vario, so that's probably a moot point. The sink rate on the Vibe GT seems extraordinarily good. I'm flying the extra large size here, and I'm probably in bang in the middle of the wing loading. And I'm sure, I've tried to fly the milk run dozens and dozens of times and failed. And the very first time I tried on the Vibe, I flew the whole thing, which may just be the day. I may have just got a lucky day. But I'm pretty sure that the Vibe was going up in air where normally the Buzz would be flat or going down. And all of those small improvements make a difference, I think. Active piloting. Generally, my view of active piloting, I've never really been taught active piloting. It's just sort of what you find yourself doing. And I'm sure that everyone thinks of it differently. What I tend to do is to try and search for brake pressure. Not a lot of brake pressure, but just searching for brake pressure all the time to stabilise the wing above my head and dampen any movements, especially the pitch of the glider. And the Vibe feels tighter than the Buzz in active air in terms of a more solid leading edge. It was carving through the air a bit more sharply, and so my hands are moving less than they normally would to catch surges and lumps and things. There's a part of the milk run near to Grisdale Tarn or Dollywaggon Pike where you often will find very, very strong lift, but very broken and turbulent air with an unpredictable air mass. Basically, you have three valleys meeting. There's the Thirlmere Valley, the Grasmere Valley, and the Ullswater Valley, all meeting at Grisdale Tarn. And then there's thermals and lots of terrain, and it's a very unpredictable air mass. It's pretty much always rough there, but also very strong climbs. So, horses for courses sort of thing. And the air here, even 1,000 feet above the terrain, was quite sporty, but the glider never deflated and it absorbed most of the bumps. And so I did feel like, although the Vibe is got much smaller cell openings and obviously has more performance on glide and so on, it was looking after me. There seemed to be still quite a lot of passive safety in rough air, whereas having to really actively pilot the glider. Then going on glide between thermals, I haven't yet tried the speed bar particularly. I've touched the speed bar the odd occasion, but not really. It wasn't really necessary because I was going sort of slightly downwind. I haven't used the BC riser system. or big ears or anything like that, so I can't tell you about those things. The glide performance, though, is obviously a step up from the Buzz 7. It's so good, in fact, that I'm having to change my landing setup flying this. On a lower aspect ratio wing or a slower wing with a bit more drag, you can kind of stuff it into a small field easily at trim speed. But the Vibe, it glides so well that I need to brake much more consciously in order to destroy the glide angle or include more turns, gentle S turns near the ground, that sort of thing. Yeah, very impressive glide. It took me quite a long time to get down. I arrived at Grasmere at $3,500. Really, I should have gone and done something with all that height. I was just so happy to have flown the milk run. I didn't think about that. I was just wanting to land and go to the pub. It still has that reassuring, calm, solid feeling that the Buzz has. It just has a bit more to it. It goes up a bit more, it turns a bit better, it glides a bit better. It's holding itself together much better in the thermal, and you're being tipped out of the thermals a bit less. So a really impressive wing. I've had a tremendously good time, really fun time flying it.